Remember the quote from Mayer Amschel Bauer, who changed his name to Rothschild? Permit me issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws. Yeah, because they can be bought. The history of fractional banking is when gold dealers had acquired a tremendous amount of gold. Paper money is when the gold dealers decided to just write a note and say, okay, this note is good for that much gold. Then when they noticed that there was so many paper notes in circulation, people learned just to trust in the notes. Once in a while, someone would come in and get some gold, but the big bulk of it was just a big float of gold in their vault. And they decided to crank a bunch more notes out in circulation than what was actually in reserve. That was called fractional banking. And they became very wealthy doing that. Evidence supports the Bauer family may have become the biggest gold dealer of their time. Remember Mayer Amschel's quote. Does that seem right? Or is that lying and cheating? That's wrong, isn't it? Since this enslaved everyone around them, would everyone have been better off dead? The way fractional banking has been done is basically forgery and usury. And today it's endorsed, legalized forgery and usury. When money really is supposed to represent our life force energy in exchange. It's an exchange of life force energy. That's all it is. There's a book called New Dimensions in Health by Michael Brook, also a student of my father's. I recommend it. That's his life's work, which is also an extension of my father's work, changing paradigms of everything we're talking about. Remember Bauer Rothschild's quote, "The fractional banker gold dealers are the same type of money changers who Christ threw out of the temple for usury." He wasn't passive or an abuser, but in the balance of the two, he was assertively doing what it took to boot the users out, right? They'd broken his laws of peace. Most likely, if he'd asked them to leave as a courtesy, they wouldn't want to listen. And he didn't just say, "I love you guys and I forgive you. Let's just give this to God and hope he takes care of it." It's tough love sometimes, especially with the biggest issues. We've got to do what it takes. Otherwise, we're teaching people it's okay, and we're being too passive. And if we're too aggressive, then we're adding to the problem as an abuser ourselves. The phrase, "Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves," which comes from Matthew chapter 10, verse 16, is another way of saying, with love and understanding, or with clarity and charity. We all must learn to really love more than ever and understand more than ever. Wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. If too aggressive, we become an abuser. If too passive, we enable our abusers. These are two polar opposites. We all have the power to abuse, but must bridle that power. We all have the power to give up, to give in to fear, and to be too passive with the excuse that we're being an amazing forgiver. And while too passive, we neglect our responsibility to be strong enough to even speak up. And we actually choose to enable our abusers, whether we care to admit it or not. So with love and light, in the balance between being too passive or too aggressive, in the middle is where we're assertive, where we speak up with love and understanding. So many different words for the same principles. Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. You may also recognize the laws of empowerment as our branches or our pillars. Again, different words, same principles. We must learn from past generations for survival, all abusive culture is being destroyed. All abusers will destroy and kill themselves. And we must be wise to shift all areas of our lives into balance and in harmony with the laws of nature, which isn't about staying in our comfort zones. A popular phrase many speakers are repeating is, "Whatever we focus on expands." Correct. It's important to be focused on the positive and on winning because like attracts like. So how can you expect to win if you let your trash or clutter pile up? Because junk and clutter also expands, whether we're aware of it or not. Without taking a balanced approach, too many people have developed the approach of only focusing on the positive thoughts while they ignore what's causing them the most pain, their biggest issues. I see this a lot. Just the other day, one of my Facebook friends had one of their friends make the following comment on their post about negative people in their life being great teachers for them. Their friend posted, "We only attract what we are the vibration of," which is just the opposite of what the post was about, because it was about negative people in their life becoming great teachers. I know many of you have been seeing this type of thing because it's a pretty regular part of our lives. And the question we can ask is, why then does the total contrast of who we are ever show up? In a way, the response itself of "we only attract what we're the vibration of" was the contrast of the post itself. Well, obviously, there are a lot more laws at play than like attracts like. So many people jump up and down when they find a truth that's so beautiful. They think they have found the have-all, be-all of truth. Then they stop learning because they think they know it all. At one level or another, I think we've all been there. But one truth doesn't replace another truth. They empower each other. From a mature and wise perspective, all by themselves, the cute little feel-good lines are a bit oversimplified and immature, however cute and fun they are. This applies to the whole empowerment industry, even the lines I've come up with, so I'm just as guilty. By themselves, they lack depth. That's why I said that all by themselves, they're a bit immature. They're still very positive, and most of us need all the positive programming we can get. And I still like to say, every miracle has a process. If you can understand the process, you can perform the miracle. Because the statement isn't claiming to be the answer, but it leads people in the right direction to find the answers, if they're teachable. Whatever miracle you would like to have happen, there is a process. From another important perspective, if we only attracted what we're in the vibration of, that doesn't explain why abusers target so many innocent people. And it's almost like saying it's not the abuser's fault, but the person who is abused who attracted them. Let's be careful with the little catchy messages we hear and say to stay on the positive growth side of things without understanding and integrating all the laws of empowerment. There are all kinds of ways people are sending mixed messages and even enabling abuse. I'll discuss the fact that precious little babies and young children are completely innocent and vulnerable, and they aren't sending signals to be abused or killed. I'll express more details on that later. Ignorance is what? Maybe learning from our own ignorance is the vibration that friend was failing to express clearly when they said, we only attract what we're the vibration of. Because we're meant to learn from the pain and shift the bummer into its woohoo. Thinking ignorance is bliss doesn't make it so unless we learn from it. We must continue to learn from our ignorance to solve our problems. Others have attempted to solve all their problems by thinking, I am love. That solves everything, doesn't it? After all, love never faileth. But thinking I am love while sticking our head in the sand doesn't solve all of our problems. It's like the U2 song that Bono sings entitled, Love is Blindness. Well, all by itself, a shallow or immature love may very well be. And I feel it's one of the reasons people have been so easily fooled. That saying love is ignorance or love is blindness just says how ignorant and blind we have been about love. And with that perspective, I really like the song, Love is Blindness, even though it's the perfect suicide theme. Music is one of the most powerful ways to express emotion. And without duality, we cannot have drama. Truth is, love is the key to integrate everything good. Remember the message in the verses we quoted from Paul earlier, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Otherwise, even the little phrase, I am love, can lack real depth and power all by itself. It's good to enjoy the cute little statements for whatever beauty we can get out of them. They have their time and place like anything else. I'm just saying there's much more depth people have to reach to become an empowered and integrated personality. Otherwise, they can keep wishing and hoping for peace and prosperity, and yet neglecting to empty their trash, so to speak. And they wonder why they end up buried in a stinky, smelly mess that's almost impossible to move around in. What we focus on expands, but so does all the abusive stuff in our lives that we neglect to face up to and make the necessary shifts. So the purpose in taking my own and your time to be talking about all this is to break a dangerous trend. To break the trend of training people to avoid even thinking about what's actually causing their biggest problems. The song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. It's a nice tune. I enjoy listening to it. But if that's all you do, I foresee some big problems. Nature's laws are active whether we're even aware of them or not. And I love meditation and prayer just as much as anyone. I've experienced the force of the miraculous through some of them. But if that's all you plan on doing, then metaphorically, you might as well go to the beach and stick your head in the sand while you get gang raped from behind at the same time. Metaphorically, this is what's been happening to too many good people. And some will just do you dry, while some of the more experienced abusers, such as government, they like to add lubrication or make you think they're adding lubrication as a way of making you feel good about it. Like, today only, we'll only make you pay half if you bend over for us right now. Well, they're basically stealing from you anyway. And if you find these words overly offensive, some people need a metaphorical, proverbial wake-up call. If you're overly offended, it may be time for you to take a break and come back later, or not come back at all. That's up to you. You've been warned that taking you out of your comfort zone is an assertive quality of this program. The fact is, every poem can be used as a metaphor for sex. If you're overly offended, you certainly won't want to experience the sections on sacred sexuality and our personal relationships, or its related abuses. This isn't just about avoiding our problems, and it's not about causing problems. We must not hate or entertain fear of abusers. The greatest shifting any of us can do is right in our hearts and minds, and no one can do it for us. We must increase our clarity and charity. That's what all the good books are really about. First, we must be willing to pay the price ourselves, become empowered. Then we can effectively, individually and collectively, help all abusers pay the price of their ticket.